Hello, 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 and welcome, everyone to the Lizzabitty channel. Before we get started, a few housekeeping rules here today. Please remember to like the video and also comment if you wish. So today with us, we have Mr. TWest of Afro Synergy. How are you?
Good, Liz. How are you?
I'm fine. I am fine. I am so excited that you are happy to join us today. So excited. So excited.
Yeah, I'm happy to join you on the program. Conversation
Yes.
about Africa,
Yes.
Alkebulan. Okay, well, good.
Alkebulan.
It's been a while since I really talked about the mother continent. Yeah.
Yes. So recently, Weon brought out a 7 minute and 46 second um, video about the new race for Africa. And it named a host of things in there. But first, before we get started, can you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Well, for those of you who do not know who I am TWest with the Afro Synergy News channel, and we're out here on YouTube. We're on Facebook. You can find us in both places, and we talk about local, national political things here in the United States as it relates to African Americans, especially, but not solely. And then we also deal with geopolitics as well. So, been at this for a long time, and Africa is definitely in my wheelhouse. Yeah. So Liz, thank you for the invite. Now,
Of course. This is an honor. I mean, I've been following you for years. I mean, I love your work. I love your work because you give a common sense approach to a host of different topics, and I love that. I love that. I love that.
well,
So,
thank you very much. Uh,
yes,
and
go
yeah,
ahead.
yeah, you're outside of the country right now, aren't you?
I am. I reside in Dubai.
Ah, okay, Dubai.
Yes.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yes. A lot of people.
Okay, so let's jump right into it.
Yeah.
What I noticed on the video with Wehan is that they added some additional players that were not per se in the original cut up during the Berlin conference. And of course, two of those are Asiatic nations. You got Japan and China in there. So, what do you make of the new take? I mean, China has been on the continent for quite some time anyway, but now they are really making a game changer by adding in military bases. So tell us about how you feel about the new countries that are deciding to take a slice.
Well, um, overall, let me just say this first. Overall, depending on how African leaders and its people manage this situation, overall, this so-called scramble for Africa is a good thing. They can make it a good thing for themselves, but it depends on how the African leaders and the African people manage this situation. So you have China. China is now a very big player there, and you're correct. It did not just begin with China. China started decades ago when many of the African countries were still colonies of the various European countries. China went in there. They provided guns, ammunition, weaponry, along with Russia. They provided that to African countries to fight against the Western Europeans who were there as colonialists. For example, also they built railroads way as far back as the 1970s. For
Correct.
example, in Zambia. Zambia is a landlocked country, but China came in and built that rail system that goes from Zambia to the Indian Ocean. And when you have access to the oceans, that generally will help you to become a wealthier nation when you have access to the oceans for your products, especially if you are manufacturing goods. Uh, Traditionally, Africa has exported its raw resources, as you know, and as I'm sure most of the viewers would know, has exported most of its resources, and they have not actually added value, meaning that they have not produced finished goods in Africa with many of their raw resources. It was similar to how young America once was. United States was once a colony.
Of
It was a
course.
colony of Britain, France, and Spain, and some other countries had little areas of colonies here also, here in America. And for example, here in America, Britain would not allow the early Americans, the whites who were here initially, they would not allow them to make shovels, make axes, things like that. They wouldn't allow that. They would have, instead, they would have them to ship the iron ore or the timber back across the Atlantic to Britain, and then Britain would then make the shovels, the axes, or whatever they needed, and then ship it back to America. But then there came the Revolution, and 1776, America was formed, but it was a colony. It was also a colony of the Europeans, just like Australia was. So you saw that. So you also, with Africa, you have the African countries as colonies of the various European countries. Britain, France, standing out the biggest. They were the biggest of the European powers, but others were in there too. Spain, Portugal, other smaller powers, Netherlands, etc. They were in there as colonial powers. 1884, 85, the Berlin Conference, which is often called the scramble for Africa. That's where the Europeans came together and decided, well, hey, look, let's not fight each other over Africa. Let's not fight each other over the resources. The biggest and greatest resource was Africa's people. And the Africa's people were shipped out into slavery all around the world, first by the Arabs and then by the Europeans. So they were scattered around the world into captivity to build the great wealth of many, many Western countries, as well as in before Western Europe rose to power. In Arab countries, you had that. Arabs also use them as the women and the children use them as concubines. With the young boys, they would emasculate them, castrate them, and they would use them to guard their harems and all. And then later on, they were used in the army to fight the various wars.
Correct.
So just a little bit of history right there with that. But Africa being a very, very, very important continent, and it did not just become important. It didn't just become important when the Western European powers rose after the fall of Rome, after the fall of the Ottoman Empire. It didn't just become powerful, important at that time. Africa's been very, very important to other areas of the world before even most of recorded history. Even biblically, Africa was important. Abraham was down there. That's why Abraham, the biblical Abraham, became rich and wealthy. He was right there. He went south of Egypt. South of Egypt is Sudan, and he became wealthy. All right, so I'm relating a topic, even biblical histories to literary history, relating all of it to Africa. It was a very, very wealthy place as far as resources, and even at one time, as far as a military power. Many areas of Africa were strong military powers until Europeans came up with guns that you could use to kill from a distance. So there's a very good documentary out on the Netflix about Nigeria and the making of Nigeria from colonialism and on. So that's a very good documentary. I would recommend that people watch that. But when the British came in there with that Max gun, in America they call it the Gatling gun, and now we call it the gun. Okay, when they came in there with that, well, you had no power over that trying to fight against that, because one gunner could kill 100 men just like that. Okay.
Correct.
So that gave the Europeans a big, huge edge, even though Africa had superiority in numbers, had superiority over knowing the lay of the land, but it was just a technological advantage that the Europeans had achieved at that point in time. And that's happened. It happens, and it'll happen again. Africa is not the continent of the future. Africa is the continent of right now. Africa has always been the continent of right now. Okay, but it has to do with what we do with it, how we handle it. First of all, you need to know what you got. You need to know what's in your wheelhouse. You need to know your wealth. You know, for a long time, there was a doctrine that was taught that Africa is poor and Africa's gold,
Yes.
Africa's diamonds is a curse, Africa's oil is a curse. No, damn it. Those things are not a curse for Africa. Those things are a blessing, always have been a blessing for Africa. But it comes back to the question of what will you do with that treasure? Will you do as some foolish ones do? Will you go and just bury it and do nothing with it? Or will you take it and will you bring increase to it? So what will you do with it?
You brought up several points here, TWest. And one of them that you brought up, in terms, when we talk about the Berlin Conference, it is being called, yes, now it is called the Race for Africa, because it's not necessarily new, but you have new players in the game. The new players in the game, when you talked about China and China helping even with Zambia's rail lines, they're doing a host of construction projects. The issue is that some of the African leaders, when they're drawing up these contracts, they are making these contracts, one, to countries whose GDPs cannot sustain the loan. Two, if they default on the loan, they are signing these loans with saying, okay, you can have ownership to our ports. And just as you said, ports are wealth. That is a way to get products in and out, an additional income for the countries that actually have ports. So yes, they are making, let's say, business moves. However, some of these business moves are going to turn out to be like some of the draconian prison laws in America, because look what's happening to Sri Lanka with what they owe to China. The second part that you were talking about is that let's say the indigenous Africans, they don't know what their wealth is, because you said that Africa has always been here. Yes, and she has. But now what you're seeing, because you are finding more natural resources in countries that never had, well, they had never been investigated for some of these natural resources. Let's say that. They've always had it, but now it's like it's popped up and it's on the radar. I.e., look at Mozambique with oil, look at Ghana with manganese, bauxite, to name a few. And so, like even in Ghana, you have a large population of Chinese that are the ones actually doing the mining. So when you think about that and the pilferaging of natural resources, there is a resurgence of this for a reason. The continent is not only feeding the world, because these, especially the Western societies, they are not able to handle the population growth. And as you know, most of the countries in Africa, they have fertile land. They can grow anything, any time of year. So I'm saying, yes, there is a new cry for the land. However, the leaders, as well as the indigenous people, we have to be strategic about this, because what's going to happen again is that we're going to find ourselves in a situation like Leopold. So I'm saying, because all this stuff went on and nobody ever paid for those crimes, it's a possibility that it could happen again, because these countries are going to be vying for their citizens. What do you take of that?
Well, I don't see it ever happening again anywhere close to the scale that it did happen. And the reason why I don't see it happening again, there are some reasons, not just one reason, but there's some reasons why I don't see that happening again. Today, you have millions of Africans who are working and going to school abroad. They are learning what you and I know and what you and I have learned. They're learning all that. And some of them are taking that back home. And number two, today, you get information instantaneously. Just like right now, you and I, we're worlds apart right now. You're literally, you're over 10,000 miles away from me right now, I would estimate.
Yes, correct.
Now, but yet, right now, instantaneously, we have men and women throughout the continent of Africa who are listening to us right now. They're gathering information from us right now. They're learning something right now. So they're learning what we know and what some of us have always known. Okay. So even if they're in the furthest reaches in some of the villages with the Wi-Fi and all, the African satellite that Gaddafi put up into space. Okay. Gaddafi. Yeah, Gaddafi.
Yes.
All right.
Hey. I'm down. I'm down.
I know you are. I know you are. You know it. Okay. So that he put up there in space, paid the Chinese to put it up. Okay. Now I'm going to get to China in a minute here because there's been a little bit of demonization of China going on. Okay. Some of that's okay. Some of it. Most of it is not. And I'm going to deal with that too. All right. Now, and I said in the beginning that this can help Africa more than it can hurt Africa, depending on how Africa deals with it. So you have instant communications right now with people on the continent. We're talking with them all the time, okay? Through Facebook, through Twitter, through WhatsApp, through YouTube, whatever. We're talking instantaneously to them. We don't have to travel there to have an in-depth conversation with them. We don't have to travel there to have an in-depth exchange of knowledge and information with them. Okay. All right. That has never been the case in history, but it is now. Okay. Yes. So I'm talking about some things that we have on our side now. That's why I say, no, it ain't going to happen again. Okay. All right. Now, you learn the lesson of Sri Lanka and China. You learn that lesson. You put that into your wheelhouse. And you say, okay, to your negotiators, if you're Nigerian, if you're Ghanaian, if you're Ethiopian, if you're whatever, Malian, whatever African country, you put that in your wheelhouse and you say to your negotiators, we're going to negotiate like this. We don't want to end up like Sri Lanka. All right. Now, you and I, when we apply for credit for something, we want to buy a house, we want to buy a car, we want to buy something, we want a business loan. All right. Those financial institutions, they're looking for some form of collateral. Mm-hmm. Collateral might be your job. Collateral might be something else that you own. Okay. Collateral might be also a cosigner. Okay. All right. So when China carries out, and you're correct, it was a business transaction. When they carry out these business transactions, they have to cover their bases. They have to do their due diligence. They have to cover for if the loan is defaulted on. All right. Not only China, but even here in America. Right here in America, we have ports that are owned by foreign governments, foreign sources here in America. Right here. Okay. So, yeah, that happens in some countries in Africa where China will come in and China will say, hey, look, we built your roads, we built in Ethiopia, we built the African Union headquarters, and we got caught we got caught with eavesdropping devices in the African Union headquarters in Addis Ababa. We got caught. Okay. All right. United States does the same thing. Britain does the same thing. They all do that. Okay. But we got caught. Okay. And it's good they got caught. All right. Now, but they built that, and there was no charge to the African Union for building that headquarters. But China figured, well, hey, since we built this, we're going to sneak these eavesdropping devices inside the walls here. Okay. Now, so with China, what China has done, it's just like you as a beautiful young black woman. If I, as a black man, I say, Liz, you fine, sister. I want to make you mine, sister. Okay. And then there's another brother over there who says, Liz, You finer than fine. Okay, you're finer than the finest wine, Liz. I definitely want to make you mine. Okay, all right. They're bidding on you. Okay, so Africa is you. Africa is what they are bidding on. So the bidding price goes up because you are valuable, Liz. Africa is valuable. So the bid price goes up. So that's why over the last 20 years, when China came into the equation, the European Union no longer had primary say over the price of resources, what they would pay for resources. China comes in and China says, hey, look, if they'll pay you that, I'll pay you this. In other words, it went up, the value went up. That meant that it became more beneficial to those African farmers, those African artisans and all. It became more valuable to them. They made more money. So therefore you saw the gross domestic product in those African countries, the growth rate, economic growth rate.
Yes.
7% a year, 14% a year, 18% a year. You know, well, okay. Some of the listeners, they don't know what that is in comparative terms. Okay. Well, America's economic growth rate is around about, maybe about 1.2%, maybe a little bit more, plus or minus. Okay. European Union growth rate is even less than that. Okay. So we're talking about huge growth rates over the last 20 years economically with African countries. And now that was primarily one reason, not the only reason, but a big reason why was because of China. China drove the bid price up. Okay. Now, with that, it's incumbent upon Africans and African leaders to do the right thing with that. Okay? You don't splurge it. What you do is you invest it into smart things, into certain technologies, certain education. You invest it into those things that will put you on a platform where China was 40 years ago, 50 years ago, towards growth. You invest it in that way. You handle it wisely. Okay? So today is a good day, a very good day for Africa. Now, China and the United States, China and the European Union, they will clash with each other because they are bidding over the beautiful woman, over the abundant, luxurious woman, Africa. This is the bid. So therefore, take out Gaddafi, destabilize Sudan, split Sudan up into two countries. Okay? Try to remove China, where China is getting its oil and other resources to run its factories. Try to remove China from those particular African countries. You see, Africa is not only rich in chromium, cobalt, manganese, platinum. Africa has more oil and gas. This is never said.
That's correct.
It has more oil and gas than those Arab countries. More. Okay? It's just that in part, most of Africa, the oil and gas has not been exploited yet.
Yes.
But it's throughout the continent. But not only that, Africa has an abundance of medicinal products that come from its abundance and variety of animals from which you can extract and make medicines from. Also plants. And one excellent point that you made earlier, Liz, is that Africa can grow various crops throughout the year because of its climate. Okay?
And the fertility of the soil.
Yes. It's climate. So these are, I mean, we could go on and on and on speaking about the luxurious woman. Okay? The woman of abundance. The woman that all nations of the earth that became rich and wealthy and powerful, they had to go through Mother Africa.
They did.
Okay, we can talk about all of that, but that would take too long. That would take way too long. So when we look at China, it is important that we realize that some of us who were brought, our ancestors were brought out of Africa by force long ago. Some of us who have been westernized, some of us serve as agents in a non-beneficial way.
Yes.
Towards Africa. All right. So I've heard some of the agents, they speak totally against China. I'm like, well, you don't know the history. Who are you speaking for? And whose voice are you speaking in? Who are your cheerleaders? Who's cheering you? Okay, so it's important to understand that you keep China honest with things. You must keep them honest. All right, but you want to keep China in the equation.
But see, you don't
want China dumping inferior products into Africa. You don't want that.
They've already started that. But it's something you said when you talked about how the European would play to basically get over on China. And so they used this tactic with Gaddafi, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, you can look at Robert Mugabe. Robert Mugabe was trying to return original forms back to their original owners. And you see what happened with that whole process. But what China is doing, I'm not saying that a country like you and I'm not saying that we can't forge relationships and friendships. That's not what I'm saying at all. But just as you said, you have to keep certain friendships in check. China has been allowed to open Chinatowns in Africa. I can tell you for a fact, being in China twice, they would never allow me as an American to open up a black town in China. Nowhere. I don't care how much money I have. They are not going to allow me to do that. You know why? Because it takes away from their culture. One thing about them, they are keen on preserving that culture. So they would never allow me to do that. They just wouldn't allow it. But yet they're doing it elsewhere.
Yeah. Well, look, the one who have the greatest amount of power, they are the ones who are able to promote their cultures strongest, period. Okay. Now, once Africans attain more power, they will be able to, in China, to establish their own areas, even in China. But you can't do that if you don't have the power to do that. China's able to do that with its Chinatowns. There's Chinatowns all over the world, Britain, everywhere. Right here in America, there's Chinatowns everywhere. It's just a Confucian thing. It's a thing that they do that. Okay, period. They do it. All right, now, and I don't fault them for that. I do not fault them for that. All right, so, but once you have the power to do it, once you have a system in place to do that, then you can do it. Africans, for the most part, they generally they don't do that unless they have the power and they have the numbers to do it. You go to Houston, you're going to see little Nigeria there. You go to South Africa, a part of Johannesburg, you're going to see little Nigeria there. Okay, and even if you go to certain parts of China, you're going to see a little bit of Nigeria in certain parts of China too. One part, I can't call the name right now. One part, once you get some numbers in there, once you get some power in that area, then you will see a little bit of that beginning to flourish, beginning to establish. So China has that type of power right now, so China can do that. All right, so we can't fault them for it. I mean, what we can do, we can say, okay, if by you having this here, if it adversely affects this area of Africa adversely, then that's when we say, no, you need to adjust this. You need to moderate this in this way for this reason.
But something you just said, when you said they got the power, there are 54 sovereign nations on the continent. So when you think about votes with the UN, there's power in being collective, being group heavy, sticking together. So they have power. I just feel that they're not going to be collective about it. I think in them as a whole, they could enact some changes as well. But a lot of these countries, again, as I'm saying, they are becoming so debt-ridden because they're saying they don't have, and you're correct. If you go back in history, excuse me, China built up its manufacturing base. They were hurting badly some 50 years ago. So they started to work on a plan to get themselves out of the hole that they were in, and they used it by manufacturing. Got that. But now that they have become the manufacturing giant, it is like an imminent takeover worldwide. And I guess you could say this is a part of free enterprise, free markets, capitalism. And at the same time, even with all the technology and things that you mentioned before, it still appears, the appearance, the optics of things, it just doesn't look good in terms of, again, this race for Africa, because it's like slices, but they are the major player. Just like the U.S. Anytime a country puts a military base somewhere, now we're talking about strongholds. And they have several. At first, it was just the U.S. And you're right, Russia had, historically, they have aided several African nations as well. But I feel at some point, we're going to get to an impasse with what's going on. Even with technology forging, and yes, as you're saying, we're able to do this and all of that. Something is going to happen. It's going to be big.
Yeah. You have, for example, America has probably upwards of 20 military bases in Africa.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. China, you would struggle to find any more than 3 Chinese military bases in Africa. Djibouti, you have a little Chinese naval base there, but you have the long time, I think, Italian military base there. You got an American military base there also. So some talk about China having military bases throughout Africa. No.
I thought it was 7. You said it 3. The last I thought it was 7. But go ahead.
Yeah. You would have to show me where China have 7 military bases in Africa, and if they do, when did they establish those military bases? It's important to realize this. When Libya was invaded by the European Union, by NATO in 2011, the Chinese had to quickly get their people out of there.
Correct.
Get them out. And what the European Union, the British and the Americans primarily, what they were trying to do, they were trying to cut China off from the oil resources, because it is the oil resources that primarily runs Chinese factories from manufacturing. As Chairman Mao said over 60 years ago, China will become a power through what they do with their hands, making things. Okay, that's vision. Okay, correct. That's vision. He had the vision. He implemented the process, and they did it, and they're doing it. You can't do anything but admire that. Okay, because they were successful and have been successful at that goal. Now, because they have been successful and they have moved in on this luxurious woman, Africa, what the United States and the European Union has done, they have moved into Africa. America, under George W. Bush, established what is called the AFRICOM, Africa Command.
AFRICOM, that is correct.
Okay? And it was headquartered in Germany, and then they moved the headquarters to Africa for one spell. I think they moved it out a little bit, but the militaries are there. They're there. So China realized that, look, if we've invested billions of dollars into an African country, and France, like it did in 2010 with Cote d'Ivoire or Ivory Coast, if they decide they're going to manipulate and overthrow the government, and we're not going to get paid back for the loan because it's a new government, okay? Then what China has decided to do, well, look, we need to have a better ability of defending what we've invested into. So China says, oh, okay, we want to have a military base in Djibouti. We will pay the Djibouti government for this. We want this. So China, the military bases are for those reasons, to protect their investments, because the United States and NATO, they can come in militarily, take it, and China can't say anything other than we protest this. This is a human rights violation. Just like recently, the other day, the United States finalized a deal with Taiwan.
Yes.
Taiwan is really a province of China. Okay. They finalized a deal with Taiwan for military missiles, hardware. Okay. And China had already said if that happens, it would mean war. Well, when it happened, China blinked. And China said, well, we're gonna apply sanctions. Okay. All right. So people need to understand that there is a high level military game going on between the two biggest economic
powerhouses. Okay.
And let me just say the three biggest. But the two of them are working together mostly. That's the United States and the European Union. They're working together mostly against China, with Britain being the big voice within the European Union. So they're working together against China. So you've got that's going on, and then you have the pawns that are in the middle. Those 54 African countries are pawns in the middle of this. Okay, so this is what you see when China had an edge in Sudan over 15 years ago.
Correct.
What the Europeans and Americans did, they got into the ears of certain Africans and all. They exploited little differences between the North and the South, and then they split up Sudan. Well, most of Sudan's oil is in the southern region. So when they split it up, and right before they split it up, you had American, French, Total, and other oil companies. They were running in there big time to make sure that they got the edge over China.
Like they're doing in Mozambique.
Yes, it's the same thing. They practice the same thing throughout. The resources might be different, but they're practicing the same doggone thing. So Africans have to be aware of this and know how to maneuver within it and around it.
But do you think that some of that is a part of a contention in that the West are controlling some of the African leaders?
Of course.
Because a lot of these African leaders are highly educated.
Yeah.
Okay. And just to allow people to ramrod and just extract, there has to be another play that we just don't see up front. It's happening in the background.
Well, we see it up front, actually. We see it up front. And historically, we've seen it up front. We know that African leaders such as Muammar Gaddafi and those before him, if they buck against these rascals will try to kill them. They will murder them. Okay. They were not successful with Mugabe. Mugabe was a very, very intelligent man, very well educated. And also, just because somebody is well educated doesn't mean that they got some good sense. Okay,
true.
It depends on who educated you and what they educated you in. Okay, all right. So some of the things that I'm saying, you can have someone with a PhD in international studies, international trade. Some of the things that I'm saying, they'll tell you, well, they didn't teach us this in school. I didn't learn this in school. I didn't learn that in school. We didn't even think that way in school. All right. So some things just comes down to common sense. Okay. Not the amount of education, because you got some common people in African villages
that'll agree.
Who can run around, they can tell you, no, this is what they're doing. They can tell you.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. So, well, let me ask you this. Saying that, how can the blacks in the diaspora play a role in what's happening and being forged on the continent right now? What ways can they assist in that? Yeah. And not just allow others who don't look like us take everything.
Okay. Yeah. Here it is right here. Most blacks in America cannot assist at all. Most cannot. Okay? Because they haven't really solidified what they need to solidify with themselves at home, right here in America. Okay? Home first.
Good point.
Then abroad. Okay? Home first, then abroad. Okay? Now, but those, you have some who can. They have the resources, they have the means, okay? They can. And some of them are doing that. Some of them are living there in Africa, in Ghana, in Ethiopia, in Eritrea, in South Africa, Zimbabwe, etc. They're living there. They're working there. They're doing things. They're teaching there. What have you? They're doing that. You see, Africa don't want anybody who's impoverished. Africa does not want anybody who's coming over there to see what Africa can do for them.
Of course.
When you go to Africa, they're looking for what you can add to help the situation there. That's what they're looking for. They're not looking for somebody on welfare. You're not looking for that. That's why I say no. Not all blacks here can add anything to the equation there.
That's true, but
okay, but for those who can, there's some things that they can do. Okay, you got some here who have knowledge in high-tech areas. Some of them are from here. A lot of people use the term ADOS right now, and some of them are from Africa, but they've been educated here. Okay, they've got knowledge. They got master's degrees in this or that, PhDs, etc. They have the means of taking that to areas of Africa to bring something, to help bring something to the equation. Okay, and but go over there with the right attitude, and you know this. So I'm really not talking to you. You know this, but you don't go over there with a big head thinking that you all that. You don't go over there with that, okay? Because millions and millions of Africans, you got over 1.3 billion people on that continent.
Oh, yes.
Millions of them are very, very well educated, highly educated.
Yes.
Okay, they know their stuff. Some of them know it well better than you do. Okay, so don't go over there with that type of attitude. You go over there, you find you a niche where you can bring value to the equation, where you can bring something where there isn't something. Okay, so you go over there with that attitude. That's the attitude you go there with. You don't go over there with a big head type attitude. You just don't do that.
Would you say that there's any particular area that the ones that you speak about could actually focus on? Any particular industries that they could actually focus on and not have it, what's the word I want to use? Infiltrated by others that do not look like us.
Well, you're always going to always have, if it's a very good thing, if it's something, that you're always going to have attempts to infiltrate that. We know that. We already know that. Okay. But there are some areas, some who go over there, they may go over there as teachers. in various disciplines.
Mm-hmm.
You know, one thing that's needed more of is definitely the areas of engineering,
Yes.
chemistry. Okay, because when I start throwing something out there at you like chromium, cobalt, manganese, platinum, when I start throwing those things out there, most people really don't know much about what those resources, those rare earth metals, do, how they are used. You know, I just put in about 3 months ago, I just put in a water filtration system here on the property for my well.
Okay.
And what was shipped to me with that product was sand, gravel, and manganese oxide manganese.
Mm.
Real fine black powder.
Yes.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
All right. It is used to help filtrate out iron in water and other things in water. Okay. These are practical uses for these things. And the four metals that I just named, those are the four most strategic metals in the world. Now, more and more people know about coltan,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
uh,
Mm-hmm.
from cobalt and all, and how it's used in the electronic industry. And you
Correct.
use gold in computers with the computer circuitry. Okay, so you use gold with that. And platinum, just like I said, the oxide manganese, it helps filtrate out things that you don't want to drink. Okay? And everybody needs clean water, right? Well, a hell of
Facts.
a lot of manganese comes from Africa.
Oh, yes.
All right? Now,
Mm-hmm.
and the oxide is the oxygen that's added into that. Okay? To make it oxide manganese. So, with platinum, people don't like polluted skies, the air polluted, big time. Well, the platinum is used in catalytic converters
Yes, it
in
is.
automobiles. Okay, that's sourced primarily from Africa. Okay, so when you have African Americans here in America who are trained in the area of chemistry and all those elements on the on the chemical chart that we learned a little bit about when we were in high school. A little
Yes.
bit.
Periodic table.
Yeah, the periodic table. They don't want to teach you too much because, some folks can get dangerous. It's, oh, that's how you make a bomb. I mix these two, I can add boom. Okay. So when you learn these and you know these things, then you can, as a teacher, as an instructor, you take these things to Africa, you start teaching these things. Oh, you mean, and the Africans say, oh, you mean all that when I was out there digging hundreds of feet underground for this metal? Oh, that's what that does? That is what that does? Oh, okay. Okay. Then the creative juices start flowing in the minds of those young Africans on how, well, if they can do that over there with this, then I can do this here with this. Then you don't have to ship that raw resource, all of it, across seas. You can keep some of it right there at home and produce that finished good right there. Because most of the money that is made from when you produce the finished good.
Correct.
You take a tree, you take that wood, you make a guitar. That guitar is going to sell for $800. Okay, but it only took maybe $100 worth of wood to make it, and then you have the labor in there. So you got a few hours and all going with the labor and all. Okay, but that's the finished good, the finished product, and you make a lot of money from that. Cocoa beans. From cocoa beans, you make chocolate. And the Africans, they've caught on to that. Cote d'Ivoire, Ghana, Cameroon. Those are the two biggest manufacturers, or the two biggest makers or or producers of cocoa beans.
Correct.
The Europeans exploited that for decades in a negative way.
They're still doing it.
Yeah, still
but
are.
Everything TWest that you're saying, all of that is part of an item's value chain. It starts this way, and then how it ends, it has become something else.
Yeah.
And again, those manufacturing type of things that is missing, on the continent. You mentioned engineers.
Yeah.
You know, the engineers, the smartest ones, are sitting right in Nigeria.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They got millions of them.
Yeah. Yeah. Engineers.
And brothers and sisters are smart.
That's right. That's right. You got engineers. I mean, Migwali, okay, he was the one who went to Oregon State University here many years ago. He was the one who wrote the algorithm to allow what we see on the internet to, in order to be able to expand the internet so that so many billions of people can be on it concurrently.
Yes.
Okay. And Migwali. Okay, so you have great minds not only in Africa, you have them here, because lots of these blacks here in America, they are byproducts of West Africa, not only West Africa, but definitely West Africa, of what is now Nigeria.
Mm-hmm.
They're byproducts of that. Okay, so you have all of that, and it is incumbent upon us to really nourish those young great minds. Okay, when you do that, then you can bring to African countries, you can bring what Chairman Mao brought to China, which is, we're going to make this stuff and then we're going to sell it. Okay, I mean, it might not be that good when we first do it. It might be, it might be, and it was, and China still have some crappy stuff too. It might be crappy, but they get better and better.
But you know for yourself a lot as well, depending on where those products are being shipped, the quality may be better. You know this. What I have noticed on the continent is they give out, or they make far inferior products on the continent than they do, let's say, them coming to the US. It depends on who it's for, what company it's coming through. All of that plays a part in the whole supply chain, you know. So,
and you know what determines that? What determines that are the negotiators, the buyers. Okay, you tell a Chinese company, look, no, that is not up to par. I'm not going to buy this from you. You go to another Chinese manufacturer, or you go to a Japanese manufacturer. Okay, you go to a competitor. Okay, that's how you determine the type of products that you're going to get. Yes, China will dump some of its inferior products in Africa. They will do that. Not only China, United States does it too. Europeans do it also. You know.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
It's a common model. Okay, they will do it if they are allowed to do it. Okay.
And you said that at the start.
Yeah. Yeah.
But another contention to that, TWest, just like you talked about the cocoa. Okay. All of these items are being extracted. They've been manufactured elsewhere and being brought back in, of course, charged at a higher rate, i.e. something simple as ketchup. Because there's no processing plants. There's no manufacturing. And so the people are at the mercy of whatever's there because they have no processing plants. You know, manufacturing equipment is not cheap. It's not cheap.
Right.
It is not cheap. And especially if you want a German motor. Now, if you want a Chinese motor, it can be cheaper. But if you want a good motor for the staying power, you're going to have to pay. Mm-hmm. I think that's part of the contention as well, is that the African countries, in terms of trying to make agro processing, it is so costly. And so when you think about the collective of the diaspora, the ones that can do this, pooling the monies together could actually aid the different nations in that way.
Yeah. Yes, that's true. That's true. But it will almost never come up to the scale comparatively to what China could do.
Hmm.
Okay. Okay. So we have to be realistic about that because China is a government. If you're talking about African Americans here in the diaspora, you're not a government. Okay. So you have the power of government, taxpayers' dollars, corporate dollars, okay, at play. Okay.
Backing them.
Not my dollars and your dollars. Okay, where we go in as entrepreneurs, my money, your money. They're using government's using taxpayers' money to do all that. Okay, so and we don't have that luxury. Okay, so but that does not mean that we should not do it, but we will do it at a smaller scale.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then but here in America. The day that reparations is attained, it's a new ball game. Then it's a new ball game.
Do you think that would ever occur?
Yeah, it's going to occur. Yeah.
Let me say this.
Yeah.
They give me a check. I mean, I'm already out the door anyway. I'm really out the door. What will I do with my money?
Yeah.
Manufacturing.
Right. Right. They give somebody like you a check, Liz. They give someone like you a check. Let's say now, Robert Johnson, founder of BET, he said, okay, it should be like around about $350,000 per African American adult. Okay. They give someone like you a $350,000 check. You know what to do with it.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
You will bring increase not only for yourself, but you will leverage it and bring increase for multiple others. Okay. And then you got the others out there, they get $350,000. It's gone. Within a year, 2 years, 5 years, it is gone. And they don't have anything to show for it. But that's on them. So what? It's on them. It was their money. They do with what they want to do with it. They become destitute. Well, you don't get welfare. We already paid your reparations. We atoned for slavery. You're on your own. Okay, and I agree with that. I agree with it. Okay? Get rid of welfare. Okay? You're on your own. They pay us restitution. Look, they paid us restitution. We can make the whole doggone place rock economically.
That, and I think what you would also see, though, people who want to get out or that are in that percentage, like what you were speaking about earlier, but they don't have the money to do that. What you're going to see is it's going to be an exodus. Now, I'm not going to say it's going to be a mass. You know why I'm not going to say it's going to be a mass one? Because you still have people who are imprisoned in here.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're never going to reach them. I don't care what you say. You're never going to reach them. But you're going to see by the droves folks leaving. So that money, when you think about that money recycling within the U.S.'s economy, that's going to be it's going to hurt the economy.
Well, yeah, but also at the same time, you have this constant influx of millions of immigrants coming in to the United States. They've been looking to replace African Americans in many ways by Hispanics for a long time. They've been looking to
pour about these Democrats that black folks love. All you folk out there listening, so all claiming you Democrat.
So I wouldn't be concerned about America losing anything with that because they're already working on that plan already. They've been working on that one for a long time, and that's not just Democrats. Republicans have too. Yeah, they've been working.
You know what the ploy is? The ploy and the play.
Yeah. So, but yeah, you're right that you have that type of influx of wealth. You would see a huge tipping towards African countries. Okay. Some of them will just do it out of curiosity. I've never been able to go there. I want to go. They've got their illusions of what Africa is, swinging on the trees and it's a jungle and all this. Okay, they got their imagery of that. They go there and they discover, oh, I didn't know if this was here.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow, this is just as modern, if not more modern, than what's in New York. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, these are very, very beautiful houses. All right. So when they go there, whereas before they weren't able to do that, but they got this influx of, they got their inheritance, this reparations. It starts changing the mentality. Okay. And the other thing too, once they get that, you're going to have on the continent, you're going to have African countries marketing targeted at blacks here in America.
Of course. Definitely. Definitely. Totally.
Big time. They know you got some money.
Then you got some money.
Come. Can you partner with us in this? Can you help us do this? Can you help us do that? All right. Come. Oh, we love your music. Come. Oh, we love this. We love that. Come. You got money. They don't want anybody broke.
And we want some of
it. They're not looking for a broke. Okay. They're not looking for that. They're not. And you see, and this is not a put down on broke people. It's not. It's a challenge to broke people. It's a challenge for you to do better. It's a challenge for you to take the steps so that you won't be broke, so that you won't be in excessive debt.
Mm-hmm.
This is a challenge to you. Okay? Become a good management of fiduciary of your money. A good manager of that. Don't let people beat you out of things.
Yes.
What's that Nigerian 407s?
Yes.
and you know, a lot of that is those white British. White British are also behind a lot of that too.
Well, of course. No. Of course they are. Of course they are. Of course they are.
Yeah, hardly any slicker than the Brits. They slick.
Yes.
They've always slick.
Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, Liz, it's important for Africa to realize, and for all of us to realize, Africa is not poor. Africa's rich.
Rich.
You know, in 1973, 74, and for the last 20 years, I've told this story. There was an oil embargo on the United States that created an oil shortage in America. Price of oil, price of gas at the pumps went way up from what it was. I remember we could pay 20 cents for a gallon of gas.
Mm-hmm.
I remember 13 cents for a gallon of gas. All right. But what happened, when OPEC formed, now the reason why I tell this story is because it is a story for Africa. It is a story for African leaders with courage. I'm not talking about the sissy weak Africans. Those are not the ones I'm talking about. I'm talking about those who have a backbone. So oil, a barrel of oil was selling for around about $3.44 a barrel. And these are these 50, 55 gallon barrels of oil.
Yep.
And Iran said to America, we sell you our wheat. We sell you our oil dirt cheap. You sell us your wheat and you mark up your wheat like 1,000%. No more. Iran said that. No more.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, Iran was behind that initially. And then OPEC, the rest of OPEC members, they joined in and says, oh, okay, yeah, we'll go for that. So they waited, America, Europe, they all waited to see who would blink first. After 3 or 4 months, the Western nations in America, they blinked first. They said, well, okay. They cried uncle. Okay? Because you have long lines here in America. You have the Japanese taking over the auto industry, because the Americans were getting out of those big, long V8 Cadillacs and Buicks and Chryslers. They were getting out of those, buying Japanese automobiles. That was the biggest help for Japan and their automobiles, was that oil crisis of the 1970s. So when America finally said, okay, America ended up paying 4 times more for a barrel of oil than they had previously been paying. It went up from $3, around about $3.40 something cents a barrel, up to around about $11.40 something cents a barrel. That's a 4-fold increase, about. Yeah, more than a 4-fold increase. Okay, so what you had, that brought wealth to Iran, to Nigeria, to other oil-producing countries. It brought wealth to them, Venezuela and other countries. It brought all of that wealth to them. Now, here is the conclusion to that story. Why did I tell you that story, Africa? I told you that story because Iran and those OPEC nations realize and recognize where their power is. It was in oil. Yes. They also realized and recognized where the Western world's weakness was. It was in oil energy. Now let's talk about Mother Africa. Not only do you have an abundance of oil and gas on your coastlines and on the continent itself, but you also have other strategic minerals and metals that you can find almost nowhere else in the world. In fact, if you were to look at the commodities chart,
yes,
all of them, if you were to take all of the commodities that are sold around the world, there's only one region on this planet where over 90% of those commodities can be sourced, and that's the African continent. That's the African continent. You see. Now, I've said this for a long time. For some people, I'm telling y'all some critical secrets here. But
no, I do. There's no secret over here.
Yeah, I know with you, sis. I know. But what OPEC did, OPEC established a cartel called an oil cartel.
Yes, they did.
And Europeans see that as an evil word, cartel, but they do it all the time.
All the time.
Okay. Cartel. Okay. You, Mother Africa, you leaders with the backbone. I'm not talking about you sissy back leaders. With the backbone, you can establish what I call a collective cartel, where you include cobalt, manganese, platinum, chromium, oil and gas. You can even throw in cocoa beans, coffee beans. You can throw that in there because you are the main source of coffee beans and cocoa beans in the world. The main source. So these are things not to hurt Europeans. No, it's not for that. It is to protect your own, to protect your sovereignty. What the Europeans did with cocoa beans, long ago, what they did, they bought up a lots of cocoa beans in Africa. They stockpiled them in Europe with the intent of eventually driving down the price of cocoa beans on the world market. So they bought up a lots of them. They stockpiled them in Europe, and then they went back to those African producers and told them, we will not buy your cocoa beans at this price. And because the Europeans have stocked it all up, and you have oil reserves in America where they buy the oil from oil-producing countries and they pump it into the ground over here in America. They stockpiled it. Then there's no problem with stockpiling. Okay, I understand that. Okay, ancient Egypt, they stockpiled it during the time of the biblical Joseph. They stockpiled it. Okay, all right, for rainy times, for bad times. Okay, so what they did is that they brought these resources to Europe, stockpiled it, and then drove the price of cocoa beans way down, way down. And the Africans were giving up their cocoa beans for a little bit of nothing just to get a little something.
Yes.
Okay, barely, not even really making a profit. Okay, so these are the games that they play, and we have to have leaders, teachers, advisors who are aware of these things and know how to maneuver around these things, and even more importantly, have the courage to do it. Because mad dogs, they do not like it when you take away their bones or their meat. They don't like it. So you have to be.
You are so right.
And sometimes you need an ally. You need a China. You need a Russia. Okay? All right, you need that. Okay, so you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. You don't attack China. China never enslaved you. Okay? China never colonized you. And because of the lessons learned of a long, painful past, you're never going to be colonized again anyway, because you're smarter than that. You're not that stupid. Okay? So don't let them divide you, you magnificent, beautiful woman. Don't let them do that. Your prices are far above all the rubies, the diamonds, far above all that. Don't sell yourself cheap. Don't prostitute yourself like that.
Say it again.
Let them bid on you. Let them bid up the price. And then from the increase, you take that and you invest it into your people. You invest it into education. You invest it into housing. You invest it into medicines. You invest it into better methodologies of farming. You invest it into all of those things and more. That's what you do. So Liz, okay, I'm going to stop right there. I'm going to stop.
Normally I do an hour, so I will say that since we've gone over an hour. But I want to thank you for joining us today. Please tell everyone where they can find you, TWest, and all of that.
Well, thank you, Liz. Thank you, Liz, and to your viewers and all. And I know some of them from Afro Synergy News, they came on over here because I told them about what you were doing here today. And
Great.
You're doing a good thing. So you can find me on Afro Synergy News out there on YouTube or on Facebook, Afro Synergy News. I'm on Twitter also, but I don't do a whole lot with Twitter. But I'm there. Okay. I'm on Instagram too, but I don't do a whole lot there either. Okay. So, but that's where you can find me at. We're bringing you the truth.
Yes.
That's what it's all about. Bringing you the truth, bringing you the ideas that are really going to move you forward and sustain you. You know, you can move forward and then tomorrow you move several steps backwards.
Yeah.
You got to have staying power to sustain you. So
Liz,
thank you for the invite.
Thank you so much for joining us, everyone. Thank you for watching. Thank you for enjoying this great conversation, this great mind. And I will take us out with our outro. You all have a good day or evening wherever you're viewing from. Thank you.